We can go now. Hi, Laura Sutherland. How nice to see you. Yeah. I have been watching another season of the show Alone. If you haven't heard about it, it's a reality TV show where 10 people are left in the wilderness to survive with 10 tools of their choosing, and they build their own shelters and hunt their own food, find their own water, and whoever survives the longest gets $500,000. So it's interesting watching this show. I love watching people push themselves to their limits, because then we really have a test of who we truly are and what grounds us and what is meaningful to us, and where it really tells us where we get our strength and power from. So with these 10 people on this season 9 that I just finished watching, a few went home. I think 2 or 3 went home in the first 2 weeks. One because he missed his family dearly and came to the realization that the $500,000 was not worth him being away from them for so long, even though that $500,000 really would have changed their lives in a big way. But he thought that being away from them was too expensive for his heart to be away, so he went home, and he was at peace with that. The second person who left was injured. They do have medical checks. They have people who come check on them every few days or so, just to make sure that if they're not successful at hunting and skinning and cooking, whatever it is that they have caught, that some of them lose 10, 20, 30% of their body weight, because they're living on whatever they can catch or gather. So they have these medical checks, and if they think that they could do harm to themselves by being out there, if they're near starvation, then they take them out and they say, I'm sorry, we're calling this for you. So one of the hardest things, and most of them know this when they are dropped there the first day, that the biggest thing is being by themselves and surviving. And not just surviving, but thriving during however many days that they end up there. They don't know how many days they're going to be there. They just need to be the last one there, the winner. So it could all be over in 30 days if the other 9 tap out. The longest stay is 100 days in the wilderness. And they're usually up in this season 9, they were in Canada. And so they go in the end of summer, late fall, and then they hit winter. So this season it snowed. It snowed, and they have to build your own fire, have it in the hut that you build, and then they are with themselves for that time. And it's one thing to be with yourself, but this is probably an exaggerated form of aloneness, because you're also alone. You have no support. There's no grocery store to go to. There's nobody to call. There's no doctor. Now, there are people who are coming to check on you probably every couple of weeks or so, but they're not there all the time. They are nowhere close to the other contestants. And they make sure they spread them out so they can't find each other. They can't wander up to each other. And so you're out there with wildlife. So you have to protect yourself against bears, wolves, whatever's out there, everything that's out there. Feed yourself. Make sure you're warm enough. That's really alone. There's no support. And your support, you have to, if you want to call them in, you have to call by radio, and then they have to come get you by boat or helicopter. And they struggle with the aloneness, with being by themselves, with themselves, through the struggle. So it's interesting watching them because they play mind games with themselves. One woman sang to herself a lot, and she would make up songs, or she would sing to her hut. She named her hut, and she would sing to the hut. And they are also filming themselves, so there's not even a camera crew to distract yourself with. So imagine being alone in the wilderness. And there's only you for your subsistence. Alone, alone. I think of the young girl, she was 16 years old, from Australia, who was on the sea, I think it was 6 months, by herself, in a sailboat, 6 months by herself. So these guys did, the longest did 100 days. She did like close to 180. It's a long time to be alone. And I thought of her at 16. 16 years old. What kind of beingness do you have to have? What kind of determination do you have to have in order to do that? The pandemic for single people was hard. Hard. A lot of people, their hearts were hurting, their spirits were hurting, they were lonely, not just alone. A lot of people broke down, relationships broke down. Some couples either got stronger or they got divorced. I always like finding where words come from. The word alone comes from all, one. And it means holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y. Holy, alone, one. How comfortable are you in your oneness? And what is the foundation of your oneness, your aloneness? Do you feel whole by yourself? Do you feel complete by yourself? Or do you need affirmation from the outside world? From the people you love or don't love? I thought about the couples that were during the pandemic. Were they whole within their unit, within their marriage? Were they wholly one together? Holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y. Whole, perfect, and complete with each other. Can we truly be alone? And what does that mean? And what is that compared to loneliness? That you're missing something. So my father died first, and that was a version of alone for me because even though I was a grown woman, I was in my 50s when he died, he was still my protector. I was still his baby girl. So when he died and my protector was gone, man, I felt a version of alone that was scary for a little bit. And then when my mother died and both parents were gone, that was another level of alone. I felt untethered from what held me to the ground, what grounded me. And I had to find something within myself that grounded me, that made me feel tethered to life. In the midst of my grief, I felt terribly alone. Even though I still had friends, a full life, still have a wonderful marriage, I felt alone because the people who gave me life were no longer here in the physical. And it took me a while for me to know that they weren't here in the physical, but they were still here with me, in me, and that I was still a part of them, always, and no longer felt a void and alone without them. I lost a very important friendship a couple of years ago, about the start of the pandemic. And she and I were like sisters. We spent a lot of time together. And sometimes there's also the kind of friendship where I didn't have to see her to feel supported by her. And so when that friendship died, that was another version of alone. Another version of alone. And I had to find out who I was without that friendship. And I was wonky for a little bit. Really because I missed her and missed the time that we had together, the conversations we had, the companionship that we had developed, how we supported each other at times through tough times. The 3-4-hour lunches that ran into dinner, those kinds of days. So it was a new level of alone for me. So I had to go to the next level with my own beingness then. Can I be alone without the people in my life? One of my closest friends, her wife died. Her wife of 30 years died on December 5th of last year. She is learning what it is to be alone, to make decisions alone, to cook for one, to live as one, to be in the world as one, to travel as one. She's starting to think about, do I want to take a vacation but go by myself? She's exploring what does she love to do as one person. Because whatever she did was always colored by what her wife wanted to do as well. So there are things they did together that they like to do together, and now that she's alone, she's wondering, are those things I really like to do, or did I just like to do them because I was with her? But what is my beingness without my partner of 30 years? What is that? What is that? Same thing happens if you get divorced. What is that? It's a new level of aloneness. We have to find out who are we truly. And that's usually, when that rubber meets the road and we get pushed up against something, against a situation, and we have to think, oh man, I'm swirling around by myself. What is this? What is this? Am I all one? Am I all one? Am I whole, perfect, and complete with just me? Just me. Can you be alone? What if all the people in your world went away? All the people that give you affirmation. All the people who make you feel good about who you are, who give you a definition of yourself, wife, husband, partner, mother, father, daughter, son. What if all that went away? Are you still whole? Are you all one? Are you alone or lonely? What is that? And that's why I think it's so important for us to know who and what we are. We talk about that every single week. Who and what we are. Are you comfortable in your own skin by yourself? Can you give yourself affirmation? Can you subsist alone? Can you exist alone? Can you thrive alone? And what would that look like? And would your life still have meaning? I know that when I got more comfortable in my own skin, when I was comfortable in my aloneness, when I felt all one, when I felt wholly in my beingness, that W-H-O-L-L-Y, then my life chilled out for me. I was far less stressed out because I needed nothing outside of myself to make me okay, to affirm me, to make me joyful, to make everything okay, to help me through the hard times. I could go through my hard times by myself and still feel whole, still feel my emotion, but still feel whole and complete. And most of that also, as I started to feel my wholeness, when I started to feel holiness, H-O-L-I-N-E-S-S. Holy, holy, W-H-O-L-L-Y, H-O-L-Y. When I started to feel holy, holy, and I truly felt my beingness and my oneness. It had to do with my being grounded in the one, in spirit, in God, in love. And so I can go for long periods by myself and feel good in that. Thrive in that. Before I got married, there are times when I would take myself out on a date. I'd go to dinner and a movie by myself. Because there was nobody else most of the time. And most of that was by my choosing. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to be alone. Because most of that time, my single time in my 30s and early 40s, I was trying to figure out who I was because I wanted to call in a healthy, loving relationship. So I had to figure out me. I had to figure me out. I had to feel my wholeness as one. I had to be all one before I could call in that second person. I know. This is again from Resurrecting Jesus. Jesus is one of the most alone figures in all of spiritual literature. As I've said many times, almost nobody understood him. And through all the critical moments of his story, he was alone. Even when surrounded by his disciples, at those moments when he really needed their human support and human love, they couldn't stay awake for him. He went through his whole trial alone. His disciples disowned him, and it seems like the whole world was against him. The Transfiguration is really the discovery of a type of autonomy, not a sense of isolation, but a deep and profound sense that you're really standing in your own two shoes. One of my teacher's definitions of enlightenment was simply standing in your own two shoes. It sounds easy to stand up in your own life, but in order to really do it, first the divine radiance has to burn all the old conditioning that opposes spirit out of your system. This conditioning goes very, very deep. It alters all of our perceptions, all of our thoughts, and entire orientations to life. To have that conditioning not merely transcended, but literally burned out of our system, that's really what the Transfiguration is all about. Now, when we come to the crucifixion, we're coming not just to the transcendence of ego or even the death of ego, which often takes place during the Transfiguration. Now we're talking about the death of self. The clue that the end of Jesus' life signifies the death of self is found in the words he speaks, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This signifies the death of self, because at that moment he's losing his personal relationship with God. He's losing his personal relationship with God because he's losing that which has a personal relationship with God, namely self. Self is what has a personal relationship with God. Now, self is not an easy thing to define. Ego is easy. It's the whole host of conditioned views, opinions, and distorted perceptions. But self is something different. If you think of self as a verb, you can see that it's something that happens within consciousness. Self is the act of consciousness turning back upon itself and reflecting within. That self-reflection is what self is. Self is not a thing. It's literally the act of consciousness turning back and looking within. Now, when one is very unified within, then there's no friction and no conflict. And what we experience inside is a great sense of peace and ease and well-being. In other words, there is nothing at odds within yourself or between you and the world, and everything is at peace. But the arc of consciousness turns and reflects upon inside is a deep state of peacefulness and ease and radiance. And radiance. That's interesting because a lot of people have that statement, my God, why have you forsaken me? Everybody thought Jesus is feeling separated and that he thinks God has abandoned him. But what he lost was his sense of the self. And he went wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, into his beingness as the divine. So we go from being self with a relationship with God to self with a capital S that is divine, that is the divinity, that is one with spirit, that is spirit. Because as long as you're saying one with, you're still seeing separateness. We are that which is God. George Stallings calls it G major and G minor. G major being God, G minor being humanity, humans. So this aloneness, this all oneness for our lives can go to the next level with our relationship with God, our relationship with self with a capital S. Can we be there? Can we be in that? And in some philosophies, we are, in our DNA, we are called, we are always looking for God. That there is this thing within us that's in our cells that is always searching for God. That needs to know that God self, that's part of our humanness, our humanity. We're encoded with that need for God, that self. And Adyashanti in Resurrecting Jesus is saying that's that call to be that oneness, to be holy, holy. H-O-L-L-Y, H-O-L-Y. All one. All one. No separation between you and God. We're not talking about intersection. We're talking about the beingness of God and being there and living from there. And that's what Jesus did. He took this journey and he showed us what that journey looks like. What does it look like? And then when he shed the personal self on the cross and went fully into oneness, fully into oneness. Fully into oneness. Most of us have a lot of work to do, just feeling comfortable in our own two shoes, personally. Sometimes it takes us a lifetime, and that's okay, as long as you're always moving forward, taking another step. Some of my most blissful experiences have been in that oneness, when you're feeling that radiance of God in your oneness. In my time of meditation, sitting out in my backyard, standing with my feet in the ocean, and feeling no difference between me and the ocean, me and the ebb and the flow. I am the ebb and the flow. There's my heartbeat, and I felt that ocean running in and out, in and out. I was one with that ocean. And it just flooded over me. So when we can grab those moments, when we have those moments, that means it's possible to spread that throughout our lives. In every moment, so that we can walk like Jesus did in our oneness. All one, holy, holy. All the time, that's the goal. That's the call, that's the work. And then you have perfect peace and ease. You know, my thing is peace, so that's what I'm working on. Am I holy, holy? Am I all one here by myself? By myself, capital S, the big S. I said S. It's a lot to think about. And yet, if we truly want peace, if we truly want to be grounded in life, so that we don't keep getting slapped around by the stuff that happens, we need to find our comfort in our own two shoes. We need to be joyful there, happy there, safe there. We need to thrive there. Look for it, call for it, have that urgency for it. The last week I have had a lot of time with a lot of people. Every single day I was either in a meeting, or I was going somewhere, or I've been to 2 plays. I went to one Wednesday, I went to one last night. So there's always people all week. And I'm starving right now. There are parts of me that just want to be alone. In the quiet. No crowds, no nothing, no conversation. Just me and the one, all one. I miss that because life is crowded in. There's a lot of noise, a lot of things, and all of it was fun. Yeah. All of it I wanted. All of it I signed up for and was glad I did. And now it's time to retreat to the oneness and refuel that side of me that needs the quiet, that has an urgency for the quiet, that needs to remember who I am in my oneness. I keep hearing Robin Hackett's song that she sings so beautifully, Back to the Garden. Back to the garden that is my soul, that is my heart, that is my mind. To even be reminded of what truly sustains me. Because yes, I have beautiful friendships, and they sustain me sometimes, and they help me sometimes, and they support me beautifully. And yet, I crave those times when I'm there, supported in that oneness, in the all one. Just me and God, just me as God. It's a beautiful thing when you can get there. And that's where you start to feel that dominion over thoughts, words, and actions. Dominion over all things in your life. That's when you start feeling that power welling up, and you do truly know that it is infinite. That's when you know. And that's when you experience that oneness and that power and that strength. It's all over you. And people see it. People feel it standing next to you and know that you're vibrating at a level that is different than most of the people in the room. You'll have an electricity about you. That's what we're created for. That's what we are at our core. That's who we are. That's what we are. And all of you have it. Stallings is saying that. We've got amnesia. We forget. We forget. We forget. On a daily basis, we forget. You might remember at 2 o'clock, and then at 4 o'clock, you forgot again. 6 o'clock, you get reminded. 7:30, you're like, oh, crap. Can't handle what's going on. We've forgotten again.
Leave me alone, self.
Yeah. Get behind me. You've got spiritual amnesia. You have to remember who we are. That's why we sing the song. That's why we do the readings. That's why we meditate. Practice, practice, practice. Practice the oneness. That's what you're practicing for. You're practicing to find yourself. Because God's not keeping score about how many minutes you're in the quiet or how many minutes you're praying or how many minutes you're doing affirmations. None of that matters. What you're being called to do is to feel that experience, have that experience of God as you. That's what you're practicing for. And you're the recipient of all those gifts. It's purely for you. Nobody else. Nobody else. So while you're running around life thinking, what about me? What about me? Go sit in the silence and ask, what about me? And sit in the silence until you know this is me. This is me. I am all one. I am all one. Holy, holy. Let's take this in a meditation. Just breathe. What part of you needs affirmation from outside? What part of you needs somebody else, something else to validate you? What part of you feels like you're nothing without your work, without your partner, without your pet, without your money? Without your nice clothes? Without your talent? Is there a part of you that feels like you need to give to people money, time, anything to others in order to feel whole, to feel validated? Is there a part of you that feels abandoned by a lost relationship, a death, estrangement? Do you feel undefined? Because something has disappeared from your life. feel untethered and lost? What is that? Do you need somebody to tell you you're all right to be all right? Do you only feel your light if somebody tells you they feel your light? Are you only beautiful if someone tells you you're beautiful? Are you only worthy if somebody is there to need you? What is that within you? What is that within you that needs something outside of yourself? Do you have amnesia? Have you forgotten how powerful you are? Have you forgotten that you are whole, perfect, and complete, just as you are right now, this minute, with whatever you have or don't have? Do you know that you are treasured simply because you are, not because you do, simply because you are? Are you in touch with that energy that is God, that has given you life and dominion and all power, that has given you love beyond any love that any human could bestow upon you, that has given you all things closer than at your fingertips? If you've forgotten, do you have amnesia? Do you not know that the all good is waiting for your direction? Waiting for your direction. Your words that you're going to call something into your life, into your beingness, so that you are prosperity. You are compassion, love, harmony, unity. You are beauty. You are wisdom. You are love. Have you forgotten that the God that you seek, that all that you seek is within you now, is you now, and you have only to unleash it? So what is one thing you can do this week? One thing you need to realize, one thing you need to embrace this week, tonight, tomorrow morning? What is that one thing you need to embrace to help you get closer to the all one, to feeling holy, holy? To know, to really know in your bones, that you are goodness and light, and you need nothing outside of you to validate you. And with the power that is you, you get to bless your life and the world around you in a way that only you can bless the world. By your beingness, your beingness. Your beingness. So let's breathe in. Breathe in. Fill your lungs. Fill your lungs all the way and exhale and relax. Relax into the oneness. That oneness that is God, that is you. You in the key of G minor, singing with G major. Singing your song, glimpsing the divine. The divine that is you, that is God, that is love, that is one. And so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.